was able to actually make it work for me and help grow the business with the launch of that program. But I was also able to really deeply impact 15 women. I always understood the power of thinking time. A walk on the beach is worth more than a lifetime of hard work. Is this the right thing that we're doing? And made some shifts from there. Work smarter, not harder. Let's look at what we're already doing, who we're already serving. I was losing money, I was losing energy. There's this one thing that keeps working. I'm just gonna double down on that. No reinvention, no starting from scratch, but leveraging. 2026 will be the year of no more. If someone offered that you could work for half the time and earn double your profit and revenue in your staging business in 2026, what would you say? Of course you would say yes. And it turns out this is actually what I did inside my own companies in 2025. It wasn't even intentional, but it happened from what I was learning and the principles I applied. I took my coaching business, StagerBoss, from earning $700,000 a year to $1.5 million in 2025. And I don't want you to switch off and think, well, that's not a staging company. I do also run a staging company. This is just one example of how I doubled my revenue working less than I ever have before. And it wasn't from any shiny new strategies, it was from a handful of principles that apply to any business, including your staging business. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through what that looks like to take your business from $700,000 to 1.5 and the 10 principles I applied in 2025, and then what I'm taking into 2026 to take my business to the next level again. So the first way that I doubled my revenue in 2025 was number one, I focused on revenue generating tasks. What I found in 2024 when my business generated 700K is that I was incredibly busy working all of the hours. But what I did once I analyzed that at the end of that year, I realized that I was doing a lot of work that was nice to haves. And I was investing so much time in those nice to have tasks that I was then not focusing my energy into tasks that were really revenue generating. So the tasks that I was prioritizing was things like keeping on top of daily social media, daily Instagram stories, just keeping everything ticking over, really investing into our marketing. But marketing and sales are two very different things. My marketing was important to keep the brand going, but because I was so busy in that and hadn't outsourced it, I then didn't truly focus on having revenue generating events or places of conversion once people had consumed that marketing. And you might find yourself in a similar position. You're constantly keeping things ticking over. You're keeping up with your marketing. But at the end of the day, what really is the conversion of that content you're creating? And so in 2025, I decided that this was a nice to have. I would keep a baseline of what I wanted to do, but if it didn't directly lead to sales or conversion, it moved down the list on my priority. And then what became more of a priority was truly following up with leads. It was really running those revenue generating events. And I had so much less noise, more impact, and more energy. And because of those revenue generating events, I was then able to kick back a little bit more and work a whole lot less. I was wearing 2024 busy as a badge of honor, and I totally let that go, which was scary because it was a place of comfort, but it wasn't scaling the business. Now, the second principle that I had was that I was scheduling my revenue into the year. So previously I had thought, let me just plan it when it feels right. Whereas actually I set dates in the calendar of when I was going to be hosting these revenue generating events. Now, for the revenue generating events can look different for all types of companies. For my online coaching business, it was scheduling things like in-person events, challenges, launch campaigns where people were going to be pushed into a certain area or event or experience where they would then purchase something. Or for you, it could look like in-person experiences. It could look like specific campaigns, driving people to things. It could even be scheduled ads. And I put those things in the calendar and I knew the conversion rate of those. So I was able to either invest a certain amount of paid ads into a strategy or know what it would take in terms of how much organic traffic would I need to drive to this conversion event, and then what I could see out the back end of that experience. And for me, having that scheduled in and knowing when these different, launches and different revenue was going to come in, it removed a lot of pressure, it removed a lot of panic. And it also gave me real stability in knowing what was coming up and also being able to plan around the revenue that was coming in. Revenue became planned for and not prayed for. And the year before, I'd just taken my foot off the gas with how often I was hosting those. Number 3, one of the things I recognize, and I actually didn't do enough of them, I hosted 2 quarterly Zoom outs. Looking back, I wish that I had scheduled in 4, because what I found was that when I'd done a quarterly Zoom out, my business really skyrocketed after having that scheduled. Now for me, that quarterly Zoom out meeting or quarterly review was actually an off-site review of 2 days. And what I did on both of those quarterly reviews was I booked a 5-star hotel and stayed there for a few evenings and really were able to have a bird's eye view on how the business was performing. I stepped back, took the emotion out of it because I was so in it, and was able to actually make some really strategic decisions. And every time I'd done that, there was a really noticeable leap in revenue, but also focus from myself, because I was planning in what I call the 12-week years, which I learned from an amazing book. And I was thinking, right, if we work in 12-week sprints, this is when, we'll start to see results. And I did have further quarterly reviews, but I didn't take the time out. And I genuinely think that was one of my mistakes in 2025. The positive was I did host some, but not enough. Because when I didn't truly take that time out of the business to be off-site, I felt like they were kind of half done and they weren't as focused as the ones that I had hosted in a hotel. So for 2026, I'm taking that into account that actually I already have all 4 of my dates scheduled ahead for 2 to 3 days to spend just looking at the business, looking at its performance, and then analyzing where there's room for growth on those experiences. Number 4, I trusted my data and not my emotions. And that was a huge one, tied in with the previous of having those quarterly reviews. This was so huge for me because I feel like the year before, I'd let emotion creep in. I would panic when something dipped. I had excitement when things spiked. I took my foot off the gas the year previously because of my energy dipping and spiking. Whereas in 2025, I listened to the data and I got really deep on it. I didn't personalize it. I didn't dramatize it. I looked at previous numbers. I looked at previous reports that I did. And I really trusted the numbers even when my feelings disagreed. For example, one of our products that we sell, I felt like it made up a whole lot less of the revenue than it was. And actually, statistically, it was making up 40% of our revenue, but it didn't feel that way to me. And so it really helped shine the light on the places I should be focusing on and perhaps the places I shouldn't. But those feelings totally disagreed with the data until I then consumed it and was able to then think, right, okay, I can put the emotions to the side. I understand that that is a good thing or that's not so much a good thing. Number 5, this is so huge. I reframed closed doors. Okay, so in 2025, some big doors closed in terms of some working relationships and some partnerships. And opportunities that I thought would work didn't. Things I wanted didn't land. Things I'd had in place for a few years came to natural ends, even though I didn't see them coming to natural ends. And I think I could have seen a lot of it as, this isn't working, oh my goodness, why has this happened to me? But I reframed those doors closing into, why is this happening for me? Tony Robbins says the quality of your answers will be determined by the quality of your questions. And I believe in 2025, I just started to ask better questions. I didn't see things as rejection. I treated everything as, why has this happened to me? And what am I not seeing that this is trying to redirect me to? And I would say the two main closed doors in my business last year ended up being the biggest doors potentially the business has ever walked through, and some of the reasons why we doubled our revenue. So for example, a relationship came to an end of someone I was working with and passing them leads, and they wanted to go in a different direction. And at that point, I realized, geez, I have all of my eggs in one basket. In my staging business, I have over 2,500 leads a year that I'm not currently using and not utilizing. Why don't I create a program around this? I called it the Inner Circle, and 15 women joined our Inner Circle, where I now pass them direct leads in their staging businesses. It was such a simple shift, but the being able to see how it was working for me was huge. I was able to actually make it work for me and help grow the business with the launch of that program. But I was also able to really deeply impact 15 women who were benefiting by being part of that program. And it was just such a game changer in the year and my focus. And that happened, that light bulb moment happened in my Q2 review. And that was the thing that really, really catapulted us into Q2 and Q3, was that door closing. Number 6, I built in thinking time. Now, I am a very fast mover. I make decisions at speed. I do not apologize for it. I love that part of myself, and I think it's part of my success. But sometimes I really lacked in having thinking time over some of the decisions I've made. And it's not to say I don't regret many business decisions, but would I have liked to have a little bit more thinking time to think them through? And all of these principles build on one another. So for example, when I refer back to number 5 of doors closing and bigger doors opening, the reason I could see those bigger doors opening was because I had crafted in thinking time. Now, I've always understood the power of thinking time. I know that the Microsoft founder always used to take think weeks, and I've tried to implement that into my journey always by taking CEO retreats, days away myself, to truly think. And one of my favorite quotes ever was the quote of, "A walk on the beach is worth more than a lifetime of hard work." Basically meaning inspiration can strike on a 10-minute walk on the beach, and that could be worth more to you and your company ever than sitting, hustling at a laptop every single day. And I've known that, and I've tried to implement that as much as possible, and I've been good at that. But one of the things I got better at in 2025 was not just having those time outs, but also being able to find thinking pods throughout the day. Taking an hour just to think. Going away for an afternoon just to think. And that was truly one of the game changers, from less doing, more thinking. And instead of just diving feet in first to do things I've always done, I actually thought, is this the right thing that we're doing? And made some shifts from there. I cleaned up strategies, I had more leverage, and thinking became really productive and not indulgent, which I think often we can relate thinking to. Hey, I want to take a quick pause in the video because I want to invite you to our 0 to 6 figure stager 5-day challenge. This is for you if you want to launch a staging business this year, or perhaps you're already running your staging business and you'd like to accelerate the success of it. Over 5 days, I'm going to be walking you through my signature strategy on the staging business model and how you can get launched and replace your income in the next 3 to 6 months. We run these challenges live. You get the opportunity to ask me questions, and I would love to see you on the challenge. All you have to do is click at the link below this video and register. This is where all of our huge StagerBoss success stories have started, and would love for you to be next. Number 7, I added a stream of monthly recurring revenue. It's something I've not massively possessed in my businesses over the last 11 years. But 2025 was the year that I brought that in, and it truly was a comfort and a game changer to the growth of the business, always having this steady stream of, almost near 6 figures coming in per month through things we'd set up throughout the year. And so that was such a powerful method and vehicle to really get some breathing room, but also not always have to be in this launch energy, which I think in, 2024, I'd seen the peaks, I'd seen the troughs, I'd seen the low moments, I'd seen the areas without, revenue for a few months, whereas this just created so much space. And truly, that is my word for 2026, is I want to create as much space in every way possible. Number 8, I managed my energy and not just my time. I stopped overscheduling myself. I overscheduled myself in 2024. It was crazy how much I was working, but not how much I was earning. And I really, really structured how I would like to have my days play out. And this would be things like I'd have on-stage and off-stage days, and I would only have one on-stage day per week. And that would be doing things like this, recording YouTube videos, taking client calls, doing things where I need to be on camera. And I really thrive from having space, having creative time alone with no one else around. So 4 days of my working week became that behind the scenes type work, which I absolutely thrive in and love. And so burnout, I realized, didn't scale. And this was really the first year where it made sense to me of work smarter, not harder. And I've heard so many successful entrepreneurs say, the less I work, the more I earn. And that made sense in 2025. Number 9, it was a year of committing to excellence. We completely re-recorded our full coaching program in 2025. And not because it was broken, but I just knew it could be better. And we also invested in a company to completely build out our own structure, our own website in the back end. And I do think it was probably a limiting mindset in 2024 of every single action has to be outwardly seen. It needs to be about driving sales. And actually, sometimes the way to drive your sales is to improve your product in the back end for the people who are already purchasing from you. So that was a huge shift for me to go from, always being outwardly facing in terms of how we think of growth, instead of actually let's look at what we're already doing, who we're already serving, and see if we can serve them deeper and really hold a level of standard that we started with, may have dipped a little, and now we're back. And so now I'm not only always looking at, what is our marketing, what is our sales, but actually what's in the back end of the business that's going to be a game changer in terms of fulfillment and happiness, but also that will ultimately impact the bottom line as well. And number 10, I stopped chasing new strategies. I remember reaching the end of 2024, 700K in revenue, and I realized when I looked at the year how often I chopped and changed strategies. And it was almost like I was hiring too many coaches. I had too many strategies, I had too many voices, too many opinions. And so I would hear from one coach saying, this really worked. I would run off, build the thing, create the sales. And then I would hear from someone else, I actually think this is the best strategy. And I would run over there and I would create the next thing. And I was really being pulled in so many directions. And at the end, I realized that in some of the strategies, because I was only trying them for such a short space of time, I was losing money, I was losing energy. We were, it was bringing the business down rather than building up. And it was in 2025 where I realized there's this one thing that keeps working. I'm just going to double down on that. And I instinctively knew that was the thing. And I think the power in it was deciding, right? It was the decision of cutting off all else and going all in on one thing. And that was truly why that year had double the revenue and double the profit. And I had double the energy and worked half the time. So from all of that, I'm taking everything I shared there, I'm taking it into 2026. But what else am I taking in? So firstly, I'm taking in what I've already built. I keep adding and adding and adding to what I've already built, but I actually have so much infrastructure in one business I've run for 11 years and another business I've run for 5 years. I want to utilize everything I've got. No reinvention, no starting from scratch, but leveraging. So for example, we've built an email list of over 50,000 women, but I don't contact them enough because I'm so busy in other areas of the business. Whereas that's an area now that I really want to nurture because we've already built and paid for it, right? We've paid for it in time and energy and ad spend and everything we've done to bring that together. So I'm really focusing on that and leveraging our audience, leveraging our current connections, and leveraging what we've built so far. Number 2, I'm actually bringing back the nice to haves, but it's not all going to be on me, which is so freeing because when I've had the nice to haves, I've not outsourced them. They've all been on me. So I'm now bringing them back, but I'm going to build a team to help me sustain them so that they don't have to disappear again. And it will be strategic. It's not just nice to haves, they're not going to have an impact, but it's really a looking forward of let's serve more, let's give more. So some of the things that we're bringing back consistently are our YouTube channel, our podcast, our social media channels, but not all on me. And we're starting to build a team so that we can have the consistency, but without the burnout. And then number 3, I'm bringing back more in-person experiences, but not as sales events, more as fulfillment events to nurture the people we're already working with, client-only events where we can have more in-person connection. I love in-person experiences, and it's always been with the view of it being some sort of launch or some sort of call to action. And I've not enjoyed the process of trying to fill those and the pressure and everything else that goes into it. So I've now decided, well, if I only host it for clients, I'm going to get the connection, I'm going to get the content, I'm going to get the depth that I've been craving. And I get all of that without the pressure. And so we're bringing back more in-person experiences for the connection and the depth and the community. Number 4, we're also bringing or giving back more. What do I mean by that? Because I know that people have, they're caught up with the giving back. You can only give back something that gave to you. I want to give back, I guess, to the universe, shall we say, but not as vaguely as that, because I have a charity called Too Big for Your Boots, and I've never fully been able to invest my time, my energy, my resources into it. But 2026 will be the year of no more. I am going all in on this. We've already pledged to commit 5% of all of our revenue from our 6-figure stager program to an initiative called Invest Her. And what this is going to be is it's going to be a fund that basically helps women, young women under the age of 25, get access to entrepreneurial coaching and programs and resources. These young women are from underserved communities, and I truly believe entrepreneurship is a tool that could potentially change the path they're on. And I personally want to be one of the people that funds that, but also one of the people that gives the coaching and the experiences to these women. I want to be there. I want to be coaching them, working with them, investing in them, and helping them launch their own businesses. So we've already began that, and I'm very excited about where we're taking that. And then finally, as I shared with you, 2026 is the year of space for me. More time to think, more space to decide, less reactive noise. I know that that's where the next level lives. And when I went on a walk the other day, I realized that every single thing in the business will not move forward until I build more of that space. So I wanted this video to be the message of that growth doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes it comes from doing less, but doing it with more intention. So these are the principles that I took through 2025 to double my business, and I'm going to take them again once into 2027, 2026 to double it too.